What's up and welcome back to Kinda Funny Screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by the new face of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr.,
What's up, Tim?
the producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hey, Tim, what's going on?
I love it. Oh, there's going to be a lot of that today. I can feel it in my bones. It is Christmas in February. Joey Noel.
Top of the morning.
The big daddy, Greg Miller.
El goddamn Dorado.
And the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
What up, guys?
We got quite the cast. We were lucky enough to go see an early press screening of Uncharted, and we're going to be giving our review right here on the Kinda Funny Screencast, our show that we do multiple times a week now on youtube.com/kindafunny and roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Screencast, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you wanted to watch it live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Gordon McGuire, Molecule, and James Davis Makes have done. Today, we're brought to you by Upstart and Green Chef, but we'll talk about that later because I want to talk about Uncharted. Greg Miller, I want to start with you as a man that is no stranger to reviewing Uncharted things.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Uncharted movie?
I thought this movie, and I'm going to piss off a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen, was great. I think on the Kinda Funny review scale, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's better than okay. I think it was a lot of fun. I'm not a blockbuster action movie person at all, but I thought Tom Holland was a lot of fun in this, as he always is. I enjoyed watching him. I pulled up the IMDb page specifically so I could say Sophia Ali was great as Chloe Fraser. I really liked her. Mark Wahlberg, I am not a fan of, and this movie did not change my mind. There's plenty of goofy, eye-rolly stuff in this, I think, as you go through it and watch it in like weird decisions. Eventually, we'll get into spoilers, right? Not right now at the top, that we'll get into later. But I left this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I came home and I told Jen I really liked it. And when it's on demand, I'm gonna have her watch it.
Joey Noel.
I liked it. I probably wouldn't give it a 4 out of 5. I'm probably like in a 3.5 range.
We don't do halves.
No.
See, and this is a tough choice. Is it okay, a 3, or is it great, Joey, a 4? Is it okay, or is it great, Joey? You got to make up your mind.
I don't know if the screencast people ever agreed to this.
Yeah, we never.
We have the 3-finger review.
We didn't get any input on the
big
scale.
Deal in the thing we all asked you to review if you signed off on it, and you also like fucking bumps on a goddamn pickle, Kevin. Well, I'm taking a bite of that pickle, and I'm throwing the other half to Joey. Make a case, Joey. Is it a 3 or a 4?
Just to piss off Greg, I'm saying it's a 3.
I don't give a shit.
I don't want to be on team Greg.
You got him.
As long as I've been reviewing Uncharted, Joey, I've been overrating Uncharted. So I don't care.
I think if I'm gonna go see an action movie, if it's a heist movie, I'm gonna like it more than kind of any other subgenre. So I think it's fun. In terms of it being an Uncharted movie, questionable for me about how many ties there are to actually it being Uncharted. I didn't feel like I'm not a huge Uncharted fan. I've only played the first 3. So I'm not like I know. I got
4 is really good.
Yeah, 4 is really good.
Yeah. It's right here on my PlayStation. I'll get to it eventually. But I had a fun time. Because I'm not the biggest Uncharted fan, I'm sure there's like a lot of the small things throughout the movie that I missed in terms of nods. No, maybe not. Okay. But I'm not mad that I went to go see it. This probably falls into like, for me, the Jungle Cruise category of I saw it and I'll probably never watch it again. But I had a good time while I was there.
Blessing.
I think for me, the biggest testament to the quality of this movie is that before going to see the movie, we had drinks, and I had about 3 drinks. And one of my favorite pastimes is falling asleep in movie theaters. I fucking love falling asleep in movie theaters. I think it's the most comfortable place to fall asleep aside from your own bed. And falling asleep to a movie just hits different. And like after having 3 drinks and going to the movie theater in the evening time, I had a fight to like not sleep during this movie, but I did succeed. And I think that is to the quality of the movie, is that the movie was good enough that I succeeded not falling asleep. I think it is a strong 3 out of 5 okay film. There's nothing terrible about this movie, and I think that is the greatest part of it, is that like for what my expectations for what this movie was going to be as a video game movie and as an Uncharted movie, I thought it had every chance to like fail or flop or have a corny moment or try to reference a thing from the video game and then just utterly fail. Anytime it tried something, I think it had moderate success. I think I think Tom Holland is great. I think Mark Wahlberg is forgettable. I think the actress who played Chloe was pretty good. I think the action was good enough. Like everything in this movie, I think is good enough for a decent Uncharted movie. And I don't think anybody who's looking forward to this movie isn't necessarily looking for anything more. And I think it hits exactly what you expect this movie to be. And so strong 3 out of 5. Okay for me.
Nick Scarpino.
I had fun watching it. I think the strength of the movie is Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg's back and forth, and I think their chemistry with Sophia Ali was the most fun. I mean, the movie was at its best, I think, when you're watching them try to unfold a puzzle that is largely nonsensical to me because I have no idea if any of the thing they're talking about is historically accurate or just completely
All right,
made
sure,
up.
Magellan. Yeah, why not? I believe.
Yeah, why not? Exactly. Sure, that sounds great. You know, but I'm a sucker for a treasure hunting movie. So for me, this movie falls somewhere in the realm of really blessing. When you talk about this movie, you have to ask: is it better or worse than Sahara? That's really the mark we're trying to hit here. And I haven't seen Sahara in 10 years, so I can't answer that question. But
Well,
what I will say
here's
is,
the question I would ask: do you think
Yeah.
it's better than Tomb Raider?
yeah, actually, I think it is better than Tomb Raider.
I remember see for me the okay. I would have given Tomb Raider an okay, and I went with Joey. If that was a movie I saw, I had a fine time with it in the theater. I think in the exact same theater, and then I never thought about it again, and I struggled to be like and remember anything about it.
But-
I like this one leaps and bounds more than Tomb Raider.
Well, Tomb Raider, I think was basically like, barely a movie, but this I think does a good job only because I think it's got two leads that are fun to watch and have good charisma back and forth. And then I'll give it a shout out for the action set pieces too. I thought a lot of stuff they did was we saw in the trailers the boats being floated up into the air, and I was like, that's the stupidest thing ever, but it's a fun sequence. Similar to how I think who Joe, you mentioned Jungle Cruise, things like that. This movie hits right there where it's like if you're looking for something fun to watch on a Saturday afternoon and the tickets aren't that expensive and you got something better to do afterward, go watch this movie for 2 hours, zone out, eat a big popcorn, have a Diet Coke. You'll enjoy it, but ultimately it's pretty forgettable. So I would probably put it in the 3 category as well.
Kevin Coelho.
I think I would put it in the solid 3 okay category. I think that for me, when it comes to these movies, I'm always like, well, how was it compared to National Treasure?
Yeah.
And in the sense, like it's not as fun as National Treasure, and I think that's because of Mark Wahlberg, where it just his character was like it's not a good Sully at all, in the sense of like they don't have this relationship, and I get that they're establishing it, but like from the roots that we're seeing being established here, like there is one moment where they really like, all right, now they have this relationship, and it's like, I don't know that that's enough. So that's kind of like soured the movie for me. But I mean, Tom Holland's great. I think that Tom Holland is just lovable to watch do stuff. I think he did a great Drake. I think, am I ever going to watch this movie again? I don't think so, but I also don't regret watching it in theaters, where I think it's a fun experience to have in theaters. I wish I had seen it in 4D. That definitely would have pushed it to a 4.
That would have
for
made
me.
the difference.
100%. As soon as it started, I was like, I legitimately was like, it's too bad they don't. This wasn't a 4D
opening.
option. Yeah,
Can you
and it would
imagine
have been
the wind?
better. Exactly, the wind, the water, the seats moving. It would have been it better. Like that's what 4D is made for these dumb movies. Yes, Nick.
Oh, I was gonna add. I just wanted to pose. Well, Tim, what did you think of the movie?
I was going to say,
Sorry.
Tim, you're the lead reviewer on this one for KindaFunny. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in line with most people here. It's definitely a solid 3 for me, which is okay. And I think that is very impressive for the Uncharted movie. I think that there was a lot of people going into this that would expect that it would be bad or even terrible. And with the kind of streak of video game movies we've had over the last couple decades, I don't think that that's that crazy of a hypothesis. But on the other side, you combine that with this movie being directed by the guy that directed Venom 1, and you're like, and with the very tumultuous production schedule that this movie had, it's like there's a lot kind of going against it. And I kind of think against all odds, it came out being like, hey, not a single thing in this movie made me roll my eyes. Like I more often than not was engaged. I think that it was a very
That's it.
What's going on out there?
Dude, it didn't make me roll my eyes. I mean, that made me kind of laugh. Like Mark Wahlberg in this movie is very funny. He's definitely not Sully, and he's just Mark Wahlberg. And I like watching Mark Wahlberg and things. So I guess that's where we kind of fall on different lines of this. Like he's just such a
I also
silly
like
dude.
watching Mark Wahlberg, but this is one of those things where I wanted to see Sully.
Yeah, I mean, this is Mark Wahlberg doing his best Mark Wahlberg impression the entire movie, which take it or leave it, love it or not. My big question for everyone that's played the Uncharted series is, does this in any way, shape, or form feel like an Uncharted movie? Because to me, going into this, it did not. Granted, I've only played the first hour of the first game 3 times, but
as someone who doesn't know the source material at all, it doesn't feel like the source material.
He's beaten the first one. He's joking.
Yeah, I have played the full first one. But Tom Holland, and I mean, you guys talk about how Mark Wahlberg doesn't feel like the Sully character. Tom Holland does not feel like a Nathan Drake character. He doesn't feel like Nathan Drake. He feels like a Nathan Drake style character. And to his credit, I think he took this and added more dimensions to it and really made it his own. But let's be perfectly honest. It's like he's doing like an edgy Peter Parker here the entire time. And they even have moments where he like strikes the pose and you're like, all right, I see what you're doing here.
Well, yeah, at one point, I forget when he's falling and getting hurt or whatever. He goes, "Oh God!" I'm like, that is the same delivery as Spider-Man saying, "Oh God," but I like it fine.
But
I think if you cast Tom Holland and you give him a young hero role with an American accent, he's going to sound like Peter Parker.
I think he feels like a younger Nate. Like,
does he?
Yeah, before the adventures. Like he's still like, this reminds me a lot of the Casino Royale, where it's like, this doesn't feel like Bond, but by the end we're seeing him like picking up certain things where it's like, oh, okay, I see how this is like the proto James Bond character.
Yeah, I had the same exact thing where by the end of the movie, I could see where if they made a second movie, how it would feel more Nathan Drake and Sully. But throughout this whole movie, I feel like I am watching Tom Holland playing Tom Holland, which for me is really fun. For me, it's more fun than watching Mark Wahlberg playing Mark Wahlberg. But like one of my small complaints with this movie, and it might be a hot take, is with Tom Holland, where he's very charismatic and he's really fun and enjoyable to watch. But for some reason in this movie, I couldn't get past his voice. Like, I don't know what about it. It's for me, it sounded like somebody who was trying to put on an American accent versus somebody who has a natural American accent and was playing a character. Like, this reminded me so much.
Well, I feel like at some point
it is the case, but it was noticeable for me this time.
I would notice occasionally what I felt was him trying to do a Boston accent. Right, because they're in there. The movie starts. No spoilers with them in. We get flashbacks or whatever to them being in Boston, and then the present day is in New York. I thought there was some kind of flair he was putting on it that wasn't exactly Peter Parker. That was trying to make his own thing, but whatever. But I would say that, like, to answer your question, Nick, before we ask another one, like it was. I do feel like he is enough like Nathan Drake. I guess that's one of my things. Walking into this movie, I was not expecting to get the video game, and I don't want the video game again. I want them to do something different with it. I saw a lot of people online being like, "Oh man, like yeah, this Sully is nothing like our Sully." And I'm like, well, isn't that kind of good? Like, I don't need it to be the same. I thought the Drake stuff I look at this and I'm like, that is another dimension's Nathan Drake, and it is a young Nathan Drake. And I think, the way some of the themes they play with that are in later games, they put in this movie, and I can see that there and how they wrestle with that. Like, I thought for me, more than anything, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked great as Nathan Drake. I popped later on when he kind of becomes Nathan Drake as we'd expect him to be. Like, I liked what they did with him. Sorry, Nick, your hand up though.
Well, I was going to say, Greg, I think what you're reacting to, and I think Blessing, what you're reacting to is, when you have like an overwhelming smell or a taste on a plate that just takes everything else over.
Yeah.
You can't be near Mark Wahlberg and not have a Boston accent at a certain point.
Sure.
I honestly think that's true, because there are moments where the Boston in Mark comes out, and that's when I felt it. But that's when I felt it with what's his face?
Holland,
I was like, oh, is he matching it? Like, is he matching on like some like grifter thing of like, oh, if I match this, like, we'll be closer.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's area of effect is just there.
Going back to Nick's question too of it feeling like Uncharted, I do think that there was surprisingly a lack of like dead bodies and people getting murdered by Nathan Drake. Like I think you had some of that, but
Yeah.
like that felt way toned down from the games, where the games are basically you're mowing down tons and tons and tons of goons. They didn't really have they had bad guys that felt like they were powerful because they had their hired goons, but it wasn't like we're hiring hundreds of people and I have all this unlimited cash to make my thing work. Like it was way more toned back from that. And I think setting wise, this movie took place in more in less of like jungle, I am exploring empty tombs kind of thing. Like it gets there, like it has a little bit of that, but the bulk of the movie just wasn't that. And I think usually the bulk of the games are that, and so I think it felt different from that also.
Yeah,
I think they really nailed the Uncharted kind of vibe, and I think it is a 2-hour version of something that we're used to spending 20, 30 hours with per game. And I think that's the difference is does Tom Holland feel like Nathan Drake? I think yes and no. I think yes, he does, but no, because part of Nathan Drake is just the random aside quips and stuff of when you're walking around interacting with things, and you can't really show that in a movie. And I think it's the same thing with the set pieces and with the way that the story progresses and the amount of locations they go to. I think in that way it very much is Uncharted, and the amount of twists and the quality of the twists in this game I think are exactly in line with Uncharted. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know, but it is Uncharted, and that's kind of the whole thing. To go back to what Nick was saying about they're just dropping a bunch of names and Magellan did this and this and this, and we're just supposed to believe it. That's kind of my least favorite type of adventure movie, and it kind of seems to be a trope in all of them, including classics like Indiana Jones. But like, I almost wish that like we could kind of be in on figuring things out with them. And I guess that what separates them from us is that they have this knowledge, they know this stuff, but it's not satisfying to just be told, oh man, I read this thing in a book a long time ago and it connects to this thing. And if you connect these things, it does this thing. But that's just what these movies and games are. And I think that with that, this did a good job of translating those portions from game to movie.
Yeah, it's interesting because we brought up National Treasures, and that's one of the things that, like, obviously I think it hit closer to home for us because it was all American history. But this was all basically European history that, of course, I didn't pay attention to in school, so I couldn't tell you if you were making this stuff up or not. Not that I paid attention to American
history. I feel like it was very much like the only historical part is Magellan went around the world, died near the Philippines, and then everything else is just like
kind of made up, right?
Yeah.
Gobbledygook.
Yeah.
What about when he says sick Parmesan Magentan?
Sick Parmesan Magentan.
Parmesan.
Everybody
Now,
knows the famous line.
Magellan like Magellan is what he says.
Before we move on to our full spoilers for this movie, let me tell you about our sponsors.
Green Chef is the greenest way to get your greens. It's the most sustainable meal kit out there, offsetting 100% of their plastic packaging in every box and 100% of their carbon footprint and emissions. Their pre-portioned ingredients mean you reduce your food waste by at least 25% compared to boring old grocery shopping. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well, with options for every lifestyle like keto and paleo, vegan, vegetarian, fast and fit, Mediterranean, and gluten-free. I'm Greg Miller, and I use Green Chef. They just sent me a box the other day. We had these Greek pitas. They were delicious. You cut them in half, then you put all the delicious stuff in there. Came in a brown bag. You open up the brown bag, take out all these other brown bags, then you recycle it all, then you eat this delicious food. It's great. Why wouldn't you do this? Go to greenchef.com/kindafunny130 and use the code kindafunny130 to get $130 off plus free shipping. That's greenchef.com/kindafunny130 and code kindafunny130 to get $130 off plus free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Think of all the things you could do and all the places you could go if you didn't have high interest loans or credit card debt. Upstart helps make those dreams a reality by helping you pay off your existing debt quickly with a personal loan. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether you're paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score and is expanding access to affordable credit. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan. With a 5-minute rate check, you can see your rate upfront for your loans between $1,000 and $50,000 and receive your funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny.
And now we are in spoiler territory. Does anyone want to start off with something?
Yeah, I want to kick this off. So one of the things that I thought was, I mean, I think the only choice you can make, but I think took it a little bit farther down, was that you can't have Tom Holland out there fucking capping fools. And when the biggest, I think, hit, or what was supposed to be a hit for people, is when he finally puts the full outfit on. He gets the holsters and he puts it on, and we hear the theme
They play the
for the first
music.
time. Which, by the way, they should have played the theme the entire time. I have no idea why they wouldn't have used that amazing theme, because we hear it in strings at the end. I was like, oh, you guys re-recorded the theme, and it's stunning. Why would you not use that?
The credits were straight up the original version from 3. That's Nathan's 3.
Oh, then it's clean as shit. It's incredible. Because when that hit, I was like, dude, that's what this movie was missing. It was missing that iconic soundtrack.
Yes.
But him taking the guns out, he shoots at one dude and then gets the gun knocked out of his hand. I'm like, all right, I guess we want to make a PG movie.
PG-13, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but like we see one
same thing
trickle of
when
blood on Antonio Banderas.
I was gonna say he gets his
the
fucking
little-
throat.
So
and there's
bad.
this little thing. It's like, all right, there would have been better
Yeah.
ways to kill him, and not have to show that you
And
can't
that-
show blood.
That sort of leads me to the other thing that I really think holds this movie back, is that the antagonists are just boring as shit, and they're just sort of always playing catch up, and they're not like Antonio Banderas' character is menacing at first, and then you're like, he's kind of bland, and then the actress that plays
his dad's so much cooler than him.
his dad was cool, and then the actress that plays Braddock is just kind of overdoing it the entire time. She's playing this like comic book version of a villain, and I wish that either she had come down to everyone else's level, or everyone else had come up to her level to make it that vibe of like, this is hyper like surreal and silly and stupid. But every time she's on screen with Mark Wahlberg, he's just so rooted in like the good guys or the other guys, and she's like rooted in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I'm like, these don't like, there's no parody here. You guys are on different levels with your scenes. Like, the director needed to bring them together a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that in terms of the Mark Wahlberg. Anytime Mark Wahlberg was with her specifically, I didn't really vibe with it. But I liked the bad guys being as kind of one-dimensional as they were, because it allowed the movie to just move and like not get in its own way. Like, I really enjoyed this movie's pacing because it kept me engaged, and I liked how many times it was like, all right, cool, this is the bad guy, we're twisting it, no, this is the bad guy, this is the bad guy. But it never felt convoluted. It felt very linear in a straight line that the Uncharted games often are. And I feel like the Uncharted games sometimes get in their own way of trying to add too many twists that are like big brain shit, whereas this was just kind of like, the moment that she slit Antonio Banderas' throat, I didn't see that coming. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, that was a cool thing. And I like that we're now kind of like getting rid of some of the noise so we can focus on, we have this group of good guys and there's this group of bad guys. Everything's clear. There's no C plot going on in this movie. Like, there's an A plot, and that's pretty much it. So I thought that helped it a lot.
But it's weird to me because, like, you had Antonio Banderas, who's like the older character. You had Mark Wahlberg, who's the older character. My assumption would be that they'd square off in a plane of action while Tom Holland and, I want to look up her name, Tati Gabrielle, they square off on another plane of action. But instead, we just get Mark Wahlberg flying in a helicopter for 25 minutes in this movie. Dude is, oh my God, what's going on with my gold? Is my gold going to fall out? Oh no, it didn't fall out yet. Let me go.
Are you okay, kid?
So that was unfortunate. And I mean, then the other unfortunate thing for me was I was like, how are they going to bring the Chloe character back in the third act?
Yeah.
And they just don't.
I'm happy
just
they didn't,
doesn't
though.
come back.
I like,
I'm happy they didn't either.
yeah, we didn't need more of her, and it's one of those things that, like,
She's a main character though. Like, she's
Yeah.
she's
she's a supporting character. Yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
they randomly
Like,
are like, I was like, oh, she's gonna come. Like, I assumed she would be like on the boat, like that was in the harbor, and she was like gonna, I don't know, to do something else. But instead, they're just like, oh yeah, we forgot about her. She's down there. She's like, you.
I like
It's one
it.
of those things too. I sent her in the different direction, but then here she is underneath us.
Yeah,
Similar to
why-
how I sent
because
the
she saw
bad guys to a different part of the island, but there they are with their little telescope as I drive by, so they know to go after me.
I like that she was like essentially the whole movie being like, I'm better, and like, I'm betraying you because you were gonna betray me. And her conclusion is like, you're not better. You're like on par. Like, you wanted this all for yourself, so now you get none of it. I think that the issue that I have with this movie is like the poor writing. There's so many things that like get just written away of like, oh, the bad guys are going to the wrong area, but she just happens to be looking through a little monoscope
that's
at the right moment, and now she knows where to go. And it's like, man, we couldn't have taken one more past that, huh? That was the best.
There was some other stuff that like they did explain well because Chloe kind of double crossed them, and there were things like that.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
all the double crossing moments, all the can I trust this person, can I not trust this person, that was fun for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. All right, can you trust Sully? I mean, can you ever really trust Mark Wahlberg? So that stuff really kind of works for me. It's just when we get to that third act and Antonio Banderas is like, guys, I'm gonna sit down, and he pulls a Samuel L. Jackson from Deep Blue Sea where the shark just comes out and grabs you like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? You just sidelined a great actor, and now that's it. It's just a little trickle of blood, and Braddock gets to take over this movie. It was kind of weird. Joe, you had a question.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you said that you were expecting like Sully to go after Antonio Banderas and them to like kind of split apart, I think we're in phase 1 of these Uncharted movies, and I don't think that would have made sense for their characters to have like teamed up on that level, because they still had so much tension of like the helicopter and stuff like that. I think when they make more of these, you'll start to get those like team up moments, but I think that would have felt kind of cheap to get in at that point in the franchise.
I don't mean
Yeah,
square
but I
off. I
don't-
mean, like, they should have been rivals. Like, they built this whole concept of like,
they
this
were
guy-
rivals. They literally say,
yeah.
that's my
And
main
he's
rival.
like, he's like, this guy, he's my main rival, and they say it in the movie, and then they don't even have a scene together. I don't think. I think actually,
I don't like
I think
how
Tom
quick
Holland
they
has
got
like
rid of
one
that
scene with
character.
him, and then Antonio Banderas doesn't have any scenes with the other people in this movie.
But it's not
Kinda
about the rivalry as much as it's about the treasure.
Yeah,
Right.
of course, and they did what they had to do to push the action along. I mean, this is an action movie after all. I just wish there was a clever way to make the bad guys a little bit more 3-dimensional, because we've
But
seen this movie so many times before. Like Greg brought up Tomb Raider. Who's the bad guy in Tomb Raider? Exactly. No, you can't remember who that guy was. Who was it? I think Daniel Craig was a bad guy. Maybe Gerard Butler was a bad guy in one of them. It doesn't matter. They're all just so generic. And in order to keep your movie from being that, they needed to have focused a little bit more on the antagonist and who was driving that forward.
That was my
See, I'm with you,
like,
but
I
the
didn't-
reason that doesn't get hung up on for me this time around is, first off, I had such a low expectation for this, as I do for all action films, honestly, or blockbuster films. And the fact was that I appreciated spending more time with Drake, Sully, Chloe, and their dynamic of who can they trust. There's a backstabbing going on. This is moving around. When we went and saw Antonio Banderas, like, I thought he was dope. I liked him. I liked his threat to Tom at the auction.
Mercedes.
I liked him murdering his father. I liked all that. And then I was surprised too when he got killed. And when he got killed, I was like, oh damn, all right, cool. Like, this woman who I know is a badass. And then we just moved on to, because, okay, right. The guys are on the plane somewhere. There they are. Okay, where's Chloe? Okay, great. Like, I appreciated in this realm of this kind of movie and the story I want from this, that it was, let's give you the characters you care about and the action you care about, and those other people will be there. I'm with Kevin that, there they are. Follow them. Everybody get on them. That's lame as hell. Like, it must have been a better way to do that.
Yeah.
I will say that for me, getting rid of Antonio Banderas, I forget his name. Getting rid of him
You know
halfway
that.
through the movie did kind of bring it down for me a bit, just because, to Nick's point of like building up these villains being more interesting and having more to do. For me, it was the thing of the way that it happened felt real quick and out of nowhere, in a way where I was like, man, I wish there was a bit more build up and a bit more like believability to this, because her slitting his throat and then everybody sitting there just watching it, which like
Was weird.
was weird, and I guess the assumption is that those are her people, so they
Yeah.
weren't
They
gonna
were her
They
people.
stated that.
but
yeah.
also
There's not
but also-
one guy there that
That's my thing,
the
is like,
problem.
why wasn't there-
This
why-
guy's
where was
that
his people?
stupid that he's like, here, I'll just hire you subcontract everyone out there. All these guys with guns around me, they'll be loyal to you.
Well, no, he
yeah, like,
had
honestly,
hired
what are you
one
Talking
other
about? How many
person.
times do people come to do that for us?
Yeah.
Hey,
We don't kill people.
Come do. Well, we could
The
though.
stakes-
You're missing my point.
Well-
You're convoluting the point. If we got fucking called in to do another Final Fantasy reveal,
Sure.
right? They come to me. I book the entire group. I got you. I got them. I hire Andrea. We got this whole thing, and then we show up and I murder the king of Final Fantasy in front of all you guys. I would have already told you, hey, this is the plan. Eventually, by the way, we're not giving him jack shit. I'm hiring you, saying I'm giving you, 100K, but really we're gonna murder and have $3 billion. We'll split that.
Sure,
25,
but-
25.
but a more fun way to do that on the plane would have had to, for him to have his people and her to have her people. There's a fight, and then that would have actually probably made sense, because by the way, this plane not that big. How are 3 people hiding on this plane that nobody can see? Where did Chloe go? There's 3 fucking places on this plane she could have possibly gone to. I just feel like it kind of deflated the tension, to Blessing's point, to have him just die and then have all the people be like, all right, well, I guess you're the new person. I'm like, that's not a
They
good
didn't
look
do
on
that
his.
though.
That's exactly what happened. They knew.
They were
knew already.
They were all her
it was the
people.
plan.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you guys is that makes the ultimate bad guy character stupid.
Yes,
And then I
that's
go,
what I'm
okay, well,
saying,
this
is that,
guy's
like,
dumb.
he
the
This
fact that he
was,
didn't
and-
have
dumb
people
character.
there, I thought was
And-
dumb. But also, like, the fact that, like, her taking over as like the main bad guy in the plot. I totally understand. If they did it better, I would have believed it more. But it was
Yeah.
also the fact that I just didn't view her character as that threatening by that point, because she just got her ass
Sure.
beat by Sully earlier on, where he threw her into the glass. And so like her slitting his throat and then
At a
taking
Papa
over, I was kind
John's.
of at a Papa John's of all places.
Hilarious, by the
I'm
way.
in the middle of a Papa John's.
That
Yeah,
was a
it's-
great line though. That when the Papa John's popped up, I was like, "What a stupid product placement!" And then when he, I'm literally in the middle of Papa John's. Like, all right, that's funny. You got me back around.
Yeah. But like I just thought that he felt like the more threatening of the two, and when she takes over in such an easy way, I was like, oh, so he wasn't threatening,
Right.
and now
He
like
sucks.
she's taking over. I don't necessarily believe in her in this moment, because
Right.
we've already proven that they can take her out if they wanted to.
I loved it. That really was the turning point for me of like actually enjoying this movie a lot more, where it wasn't just exactly what we expect to see because we've seen the same movie 1,000 times. Like I love that they kept it simple with the bad guys. We're not focused on them. Like Greg said, we're focused on the characters we actually like. The bad guys do not matter. Let's thin them out as much as possible to get to the fun action scenes. And I thought that the one unique action scene of this movie from the games, the big flying pirate ships, was fun enough. It was cool. It had like a couple cool moments. I don't think it was perfect, but I do think it was a step above the rest of the scenes. And I think that's just because I'm comparing them to what I've already experienced in the games, where I don't think the cargo plane lived up to the games, and like the auction house, even like all that stuff kind of just felt like lesser versions of what we've seen before. But I do think that it's good that the one unique scene felt Uncharted. Like it felt like it belonged to the games, and like that is a compliment to the movie.
That's probably one of my favorite things too from the movie, is the fact that when I think back to my favorite Uncharted moments, or the things that I loved about Uncharted, it does come down to the big action set pieces. And so when I think of Uncharted 2, I think of the train scene and how dope that was.
Yeah.
And I think if I
Me
think
too.
back to this movie a year from now, I'll remember it for the pirate scene, and
The
then
boat,
also
The
like
plane.
maybe a little bit of the plane scene, but like even then, like the Uncharted 3 did it better for me. And so
See-
I think it will be the pirate scene.
That's to me. I haven't played Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 2. I was being silly. So to me, that plane sequence was fun. Like we started off with that, I was like, "Oh, this is fun." So,
That's
and
good.
that's what I'll say is one of the reasons why I would recommend going to see this on the big screen is those set pieces, which is the whole point of the movie, are good. I really enjoyed the helicopter ships flying around. As long as it was, and as many times we cut back to Mark Wahlberg in the helicopter, that was the only disappointing part. I was like, you're not giving this guy much to do. But everything with Tom Holland, and the fact that they got they figured out an organic way for everyone at one point, just one little point, to be like swashbuckling and hitting each other with all these old pirate swords, or not pirate swords, but like,
Random
swords
wood
at the time.
pieces.
I thought that was all really fun. I thought him having to figure out how to light the cannon and blow the helicopter to the air, all that stuff totally worked for me. It's just the other, I don't really remember any of the other action pieces. And for a movie that's close to, what was the runtime on it, Tim? Like 2 hours almost?
It was 156.
Yeah, 156. The only other thing I remember is at one point, Tom Holland gets wet a lot. He just jumps in and out of fountains a lot. And that's unfortunate. But I guess when I'm thinking about well, no, I'm saying it's unfortunate in a way that's just not
that it's not
Yeah, the way your
memorable.
sentence was constructed, it was just it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that Tom Holland gets wet a lot. Like,
Which
I
makes
don't
sense,
understand the
no one
point,
likes
but
being
yeah,
wet.
Yeah, 100%.
it's true.
If I can
He does,
chime in real quick.
he does look good with wet hair, though. I'll tell you.
On
that.
action set pieces, I thought they did a really good job. And obviously, as somebody who gave Uncharted 3 a 10, like I thought I didn't watch that plane sequence going, it's not as good as the other plane sequence. I watched it being like, I really like this plane sequence. I'm really having fun here. I like the auction house as well, because again, it's a heist movie. We know what that kind of looks like. When it is of like, go down there and cut the power and yada yada. I was ready for him to cut the power. And I liked his banter with the Scottish guy. Like, I literally have
That was
no idea
really
what you're saying. But then to get up and try to cut and not be able to cut it, just be like, you got to do this on your own. I thought that was a fun one. I'm sorry, Tim.
No, just I wanted to piggyback off of that. Like, I don't think that the cargo plane thing was worse than the game. I just think that I enjoyed it more when I was playing it, and that's the thing, is like I am comparing it to something that I got to interact with. Sure. And I think that's why I think they did a good job showing it. And I think that it was thrilling and engaging for sure. Especially when I had the question the whole movie of like, how is he gonna land without a parachute? And I thought they answered that question in a very fun way that is different than the games. But I think it's more a testament to how much I enjoyed the pirate ship thing that I want to play that. Like that to me, I think is really cool, where it kind of worked in the other way. So I'm like they definitely, their action scenes kind of like nailed the point of what Uncharted set pieces are. Kevin?
One thing that like I wish was a little different is I didn't like, it bummed me out that there wasn't one big last twist with like the treasure. Like they get in the boat and he looks at it and he's like, oh shit, it's spices. And the other one's like, oh, spices were as valuable as gold. I was like, oh, is that how they're gonna do the Uncharted like twist
They
that
never
they
get the treasure, right?
Yeah. I mean, but like, every Uncharted game, or except for the fourth one, ends with like, not really, right? Or it's
I mean,
like
I went in this assuming they're not getting the gold. I always
yeah,
assume they're not going to
yeah,
get the gold because
totally.
if your
That's how it
characters
works.
become billionaires,
There's no
then it's
motivation.
not fun to watch them. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Tim. I apologize.
Thank you.
I apologize,
Thank you.
Tim,
At the
because it
Fast
can be
Six.
fun to watch them, of course, but not the
So,
beginning.
National
right? You have to have
Treasure
the
also.
characters. You have to have the characters like, and that was one of the good parts of the movie where Sully did have to make that choice. Now he can trust him, but going back to the sequence in the auction house, I was a little disappointed with it only because it ends with him like literally running out the front door. I'm like, well, that was not as
Yeah.
creative. But I will say, because Tom Holland isn't as hulking of a presence on screen, I really liked how they choreographed him. I like that he never really beats anyone's ass. He's always sort of parkouring around
dude.
them. And
In the
then
auction
like
house when he kicks the guy and falls back down, doesn't even move the guy. I was like,
so
that's
good.
fun.
that was great. And I think that's, I mean, obviously the director was like, listen, this is Tom Holland. We've seen him, the movies we've seen him in up until this point are all Spider-Man movies. And we know he's not the tallest of actors on the planet. So let's embrace that. Although I do, I got a laugh at it where he's like, dude, you're like an inch taller than me to Mark Wahlberg. And I was like, is Mark Wahlberg that short? So I thought that was really cool. And I thought a lot of that stuff worked for me. And obviously this movie's really built on the strength of Tom Holland. He's just so fun to watch do anything. And him pickpocketing and all that stuff. I'm like, this is fun. This is clever and this is creative and it's keeping it
The
going.
cigarette invented by Alfonso Cigaretti. I was like, this is so much
Very
fun.
funny.
You're gonna tell me that woman was not completely into Tom Holland at that point. He was so
I was
charming. I would have
completely
gone
into
home.
Tom
with
After
him.
all that
Yeah.
flair bartending.
Oh, come on.
And it was the
dude.
same thing too.
Oh,
As you're
yeah.
talking about the way they use Tom Holland, right? Like first off, I loved this is not about Tom Holland. I loved the reveal of the club being next to the ancient thing or whatever. Because when they
That
were
was
coming up
fun.
with the purple light, I was like, are they about
Here
to
we
do
go.
something supernatural like the games or whatever? And then they
Mhm.
didn't. But I loved the behind the bar scene where when he takes a drink of alcohol, I was like, huh, he's taking a drink, like he's gonna drink it. And then she's like, it's not time for shots. And then he does the fire spray, and then he does that kickflip punch
Yeah.
through the hole, and they shut. I was like, that was fun. God,
That's
I like
cool.
that a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. Really creative way. Good
Yeah.
action stuff on that.
Going back real quick, we're pretty distant from this, but Nick brought up the music. I was severely let down by the score of this movie, and I think that it could have took it to great for me, honestly, if they just committed to the theme more. And like, I don't understand why video game movies are just so scared to just do the damn thing. Mortal Kombat was a huge offender last year, but they
Power
do
Rangers
have-
even, which is a video game.
Exactly.
but-
There's just so much of this where it's like so much of the spirit and so much of what's iconic about this is tied to this amazing music. It's not like we're just waiting for Easter eggs and references. It's like, no, that actually helps the vibe and like really sets the tone for what we're doing. And I think that the theme was used to good effect multiple times in the movie. But compare this to Indiana Jones, where we hear his theme song every 5 seconds. I don't think we quite needed that. But what I would have liked is the rest of the score of this movie to be better. I was very let down by it. It was so generic action bullshit. And I was shocked seeing the credits that the composer was Ramin Djawadi, who's the same dude that did Game of Thrones and Westworld. And I'm like, he's so fucking good. And we just get this out of it. And I think that hearing the Uncharted theme really made that stuff even less quality. So that was a bummer. Nick?
Yeah, so like I'll disagree with you a little bit on Mortal Kombat, right? Because if you're going to use the original like Mortal Kombat soundtrack, it's dated. It's going to date that in a time and a place. And yes, it's fun to have as an Easter egg, but that might not fit tonally.
Cool,
similar
bro.
with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where like you can't just go into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song. It's going to sound like a '90s TV show. But with Uncharted, when the end credits roll and you hear like the French horns kind of set in, I'm like, oh my God, why would you not use this? You had an ace in your pocket the entire time, and it fits perfectly with the vibe that you're going with. And it actually, like, I'm not going to say it rivals the Indiana Jones score because I have a special place in my heart for John Williams, of course. I would never say that. Never.
Never say
But
that.
it's pretty freaking good. That original score from Uncharted. It's pretty fucking awesome.
But it's not even just the theme. It's even just like the instruments and the tone and where the fuck's the vuvuzelas, Greg? You know what I'm talking
Exactly.
about? Like,
God, yeah, I know you don't want to.
yeah.
I think one thing that makes me feel good about this movie is that like I am excited for a sequel. Like I think now that like hopefully it happens, but now that like all of the like bullshit people meeting and building relationships is done, we could
that
jump
bullshit.
forward a couple years and you know, because it's like I don't need to see how Sully and Nate became friends. Like, I get it.
You just did. You just did. It's too late. You saw it.
And I didn't actually enjoy it. Mark Wahlberg was bad. That being said,
Seems like you
if
enjoyed
the
enough to
next
look for
game,
a sequel and you gave him your money. So,
but that's what I'm saying. In the next game, I can tell the chemistry's there. Now they could be the best of friends, and I'll walk in and be like, I fucking believe it.
shout out for the mustache too. You know, for Wahlberg there at the
Shut
end.
up. You sound so dumb. Shout out for
What
the
do you
cat,
mean?
though.
You didn't like the mustache?
I love
that's
that. It's
stupid.
you
I
know
thought
that was the
funny.
biggest
I
knock
liked
against him. That, you know, when he's Sully but he doesn't have a mustache, and then like to have him in the outfit from Uncharted 3, you know, down to the Hawaiian shirt or
Yeah,
whatever you want
yeah.
to call it, the shirt with the pattern on it, and then the mustache. Like, hell yeah.
See, my thing is when the way this movie ends, I can easily see how the next movie becomes Uncharted 1. Like, you could start the next movie from the beginning of Uncharted 1, and I think it makes complete sense. And that is what gets me excited for a sequel, is, to see that relationship already established. Like, Chloe's in the ether, and, like, she could or could not be in the next movie. And I could see them introducing Elena. Like, I think they really set it up very well for
I
the
was really
future,
hoping
even
the
if-
post-credit scene, it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't make sense once they got the oh crap and they cut to black there, but something like, we just got an email from a reporter who wants to follow us around on a mission. Her name's Elena.
It's going to be just
Yeah.
like that. If the screenwriter of that film is watching this review, please feel free to steal that from Greg Miller.
I will remind you, Nick, that the main bad guy saw Tom Holland go by on a boat, and that's how they knew to go into the final confrontation where they had helicopters ready to go to airlift 2 ships. So trust me when I say that's not that far off the mark for that writing, all right?
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm right there with Kev, where like the biggest compliment I can give this movie is that I'm excited to see a sequel. So I wouldn't have thought that going into it. But there was a ton of, not a ton, but there was a fair amount of Easter eggs and stuff that made me kind of like happy. And I was like, oh, that's cool. One fun thing that made me laugh was a Indiana Jones reference where instead of the snakes, why does it have to be snakes? It's like nuns. Why does it have to be nuns?
Oh, that was great. That was great. I will say that the one of the parts of the movie that I felt was a little bit of a slog was all the stuff with his brother. I don't like the younger kids. I never like this where they're like, I love you, you're my brother, yada yada. And it's like, I don't have a connection with this character. I haven't seen these kids through a lot of this movie. This forced sort of relationship between these two, which was sort of the crux for him going on this mission. I get why they had to do it, and I understand they're setting up the brother character for a future movie, but man, I was like, keep coming back to this, huh?
I will
Okay.
say one thing, jumping off of that was jarring for me was the flashback to 15 years ago, and it being a Nathan Drake that seemingly is like what 14 years old, and it looking completely different from Tom Holland.
Yeah.
But then you jump forward.
No, he was 10.
He was 10. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
so that
Nathan
puts
Drake-
him as 25 in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't. Tom
Also-
Holland just looks so young that like, in my mind, the way I like did the math, I was like, you look like a 14-year-old in the flashback. So that makes you what, almost 30? You do not look almost 30, Tom Holland. Like that for me was hard to reconcile.
It also broke my brain for a
Blessing
second. that it
got
was-
carded yesterday at the bar.
I
I just
did.
want to say, I just want
did.
that out
But
there.
also, I have the Tom Holland problem. We both look like we're 15 years old. You can't help it. You know, we're just young and hot.
I will say, did anyone, it's true. It's so hot and a lot of parkour. Did anyone else catch that the movie starts and then it flashes back 15 years and then it flashes forward, but not to present day, but it says present day. And I'm like, wait,
Present day
huh? Wait,
minus a couple weeks.
maybe a
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
weeks. Yeah. I was like, well, I'll forgive that, obviously, but that was a little silly. I was like, we got a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah, usually
going
you
on
go
here.
right, you like 14 days before or something like that,
Yeah,
right? Or
2
something
weeks
like that.
before it. Yeah.
2 weeks before what you just saw, whatever.
Yeah. Minor nitpick, didn't really matter, but just
But what about
Any-
Easter eggs?
Yeah, you want to go for it, Greg?
Sure. I mean, well, Tim, you got the first one. I didn't even see it. You called it out. Was the bar he works at? His kitty got wet.
Yeah.
An infamous
that's
Nolan
incredible.
North ad lib on the set of Uncharted for when he's doing the punches and knocking out bad guys. That's a great one. When Tom Holland went back to his steamer trunk from the orphanage and opened it up, Naughty Dog sticker inside of it. That was cool. Of course, and then of course, not even an Easter egg, right? Nolan North's cameo.
Uh-oh.
He's
Oh.
gone.
Oh no.
Oh, no. He's back. He's back. He's back.
Fucking that's when the camera, everything's got to be like, sorry, bye. Discord sucks. We get to my second one of the trunk, and then I was saying, of course, when it's not even an Easter egg, the cameo from Nolan North.
That's my bad. Sorry.
No, it's like, damn, people hate Nolan North.
I-
That's I'm just.
I like the cameo. I thought it was fun
love
it.
and
Yeah.
silly
Yeah,
to have him
super
sitting there. Longer than I expected. I thought he'd
Way
get one line.
longer.
Yeah.
I thought
But-
for sure, he was gonna be like, "What happened to you guys? Oh, we fell out of a car, then fell out of a plane, or jumped out of and then he would have kept walking. Not like a hold on him too of like, something similar happened to me once. Oh, okay, whatever. Good luck. I'm like, damn, they're hanging out with Nolan North.
I kind of half of me wishes the line was a little bit more vague, where he's like, yeah, I've been there, something like that, because he's like, something similar happened to me once, and I'm like, well, now I'm way more fascinated in what this guy's story is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you
Should play the
when
Uncharted
you're-
games, Nick.
If you're
Yeah,
not
I
an
get it.
Uncharted fan, you watch this movie just as like, you just
You'd be like,
show up
what
to the
the
movie
fuck
theater.
is this guy
Like, what the
talking
fuck is
about?
this guy talking about that he's been
Exactly.
through this before?
I wish they'd have kept it a little bit more vague, so that if you hadn't seen it, it would have come off as like, oh, this guy's just being silly. But then if you're in the know, you're in the know. But seeing Nolan North anytime on the silver screen is
Oh,
always
boy.
awesome, right? I mean, I remember when he popped up in, I think it was Into Darkness. I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome, man. It's Nolan North. It's great to see him, and I think it was so cool that they gave him that moment.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, wearing the outfit that was the concept art for Drake originally.
Yeah, super fun. And we already talked about it earlier a little bit, but the moment where Tom Holland puts on the holsters and the
so
Uncharted
good.
theme kicks in, it's just like it was
but-
so designed to get a pop,
It-
and motherfuckers, it got a pop. Like,
It was
Yeah.
an awkward. It was an
It's so
awkward shot
awkward, and
because
it's so
suddenly he
stupid.
pops in there and like freeze frame for like a quarter of a second, and it did it for me.
It
I
works.
loved it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. Yeah.
It's just funny because I never in my mind would have thought, like, what's the thing that completes Nathan Drake? It's the holsters. And it's like, I guess that's what they're going with.
But it's that thing,
man.
like, it's like I hadn't, like, looking at it, I hadn't thought about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's wearing the
Yeah.
Henley, he's got the ring. All right, cool. And then he pops down, like, oh, fuck, he looks great.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fun. But
And
I,
then he does nothing with those guns.
I mean, he can't kill people. That's just.
I
I
need him
mean,
to kill at least one person. That was
he actually did kill a lot of people, and I like
like
the
with
first
We
time
don't know
he
that.
kills.
They may
No.
have survived. They may
No,
have
they
survived
fell
the
from a
water.
plane. Like the first fell from a plane.
everybody
One
fell from a
dude
plane.
fell off the boat and immediately hits a rock at like
that's true.
100 miles an hour. He
But
just
the first guy he killed, he did apologize to.
yes,
He was
and
like,
I
"I'm
thought
so
that was
sorry,
great.
sir.
Of like
Not
it was
good."
purely reactionary, is what he says.
Exactly.
Um,
was-
uh,
I will
one more.
say it was kind of cartoonish when the villain gets smashed by a boat. That was like out of the tunes for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then one more compliment that I want to give this is that Paula came, and she's never played any of the Uncharted games, but at the end of it, I was like, "How did you feel about that?" And she was like, "It was fun." And I was like, "All right."
Nice.
yeah,
good
Gia
stuff.
liked it a lot too, which shocked me because going in, she was like, I do not want to watch this because she doesn't like those type of movies at all. But Tom Holland just got the stuff, man.
He's got some stuff.
But let us know in the comments below if you're excited to see this movie or if you get to see it, what you thought of it. Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.